All right, Kate,
Hi,
let's talk
Gwen.
positive intelligence.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We've mentioned it a few times. We've kind of skirted the issue in a few videos and talked about how we learn about meditation and mindfulness and the practices being now scientifically proven to be effective.
Mhm.
Positive intelligence is something you and I have both explored and are being certified, but in the process of certification and more advanced learning. Positive Intelligence was created by Shirzad Chamine. There is a book called Positive Intelligence and a couple of free assessments. One to calculate your own positive intelligence score on a 0 to 100. How much of the time do you use your positive intelligence? And then an assessment to indicate what our saboteurs are, which may be a term not familiar to some. But it's really interesting. And you and I have at least both taken the assessments and both worked with some clients using the positive intelligence tools. So I'll ask you, how's it working for your clients? What are your thoughts about it? And what do you want to highlight?
So I went into positive intelligence and the certification kind of as I don't know if people are going to really like it. Um, my experience with it was pretty positive, but he has some negative language, which is ironic for a positive intelligence. He's got some
Yeah.
negative language around the saboteurs, and that really like got my hackles up. But I have been incredibly impressed with how this has worked with my coaching clients,
Mhm.
mainly because, well, A, I'm getting a ton of positive feedback from them, but I'm seeing shifts in their behavior much faster than I've seen before.
Mhm.
So you and I are using the tool the same way. It's a part of our coaching process, not necessarily something that is just done by itself, right? There's coaching involved on a weekly or biweekly basis. And I think that's the thing that I'm really happy about is the faster shifts. Now they don't know that they're having faster shifts because they're just living their lives and experiencing it. Um, but I think that's the really great part of it is just seeing that accelerated growth.
Mhm. Agree. And yes, you and I use it the same and infuse it into our coaching. And yet, people can go online to positiveintelligence.com. They can take these free assessments themselves. They can go through the website. And I think they can also purchase the app, the program, um, and do this work individually and have weekly sessions with a group or a cohort to help continue to teach the tools. But we, as certified individuals, also can coach and then offer the app and offer the program. But it's not necessary. On the one hand, it's really cool to have the package program and the app because then as a coach, I have a coach dashboard and can see my clients and who's doing what, how far along they are, and are they actually doing the daily exercises? And are they actually improving their positive intelligence? Likely, by building their mental muscle
Mhm.
toward these activities, just as we would build our physical muscle with daily exercises.
Yeah.
Um, so I really appreciate all that. And yet I don't want to intimidate anyone or think that they have to do all of that when the free assessments themselves are pretty powerful.
Yeah, just knowing what your saboteurs are, and just to name a few, there's hypervigilance. That's one that I've got, right? That ability to always be looking for what's going to go get me. Always be trying to figure out people, because when I was a kid, that's, I benefited from being able to anticipate what was going to
Yeah.
make somebody mad. Carried that into my adult life, made me pretty controlling as an individual, which is another saboteur, is controlling. And hypervigilance, any one of these, perfectionism, hypervigilance, controlling, perfectionism. Let me see if I can. Restless, stickler is the perfectionist, pleaser, hyper rational. Like all of these things can be superpowers,
Mhm.
but they become saboteurs when you use them too much. So a pleaser fundamentally just wants to make people happy.
Mhm.
And where we tip over into where, the pendulum swings too far and it's a negative for you is when you're giving up all of your agency in order to make someone else happy, or you're giving up, you're trying to please them in order to manipulate them, or if you're trying to please them into and become resentful over it.
Exactly, the resentful piece.
So
And
all of
then we wonder why we get burnt out because we've suddenly slipped from pleasing to resentful that no one appreciates our people pleasing.
Mhm. And so they like it teaches you to be able to discern where is this, me using my superpower, and when is it my superpower, my saboteur controlling me?
Hmm.
And he uses a lot of words around the sage, which I think of as the self, like your true self, and using your sage powers of, really taking the learning from an experience, really understanding what the other person is doing, really understanding where your judge is coming in and making it a negative experience for you and others, and where you need to, talk to that judge in your saboteurs and be like, maybe not. Maybe this isn't about them. Maybe it's about you. Maybe it's about what you need to do differently, or where you're feeling wronged, or where, you're applying your stuff onto them.
Hmm.
And what I think is interesting about, because it does have this daily rep component to it, is I think of it as you're filling a lake of capacity.
Nice.
And this lake of capacity is there for you. The more you grow this lake, the more water you put in there, the more availability you have to it.
Mhm.
So it's much like, we say a daily mindfulness practice is paramount to being able to be present, etc. And that's what the positive intelligence or positive quotient reps are. They're all about making sure that you're present
Mhm.
and building that lake so that when, something happens that triggers you, you've got that lake that
Mhm.
you can pull from to cool yourself off,
Cool
to put out a
yourself off.
fire,
Mhm.
to take a pause. You've got that capacity there. Because if we don't build it up, we don't have the capacity.
Yeah, we're empty. And that's what people talk about. I just feel empty. I
Mhm.
feel stuck. I don't have any energy. I
Mhm.
can't move forward. Well,
I'm so angry that I'm paralyzed by what's going on in the world, not just in the world, but like my world, my interactions. Um, yeah, all of those things, right? And this gives you that capacity to pull on to make those choices versus making the reactions.
yeah, exactly. Well, I was thinking in order to help a little, I could share my saboteur's assessment, as scary as
Yeah.
this is. This is from May. So on the one hand, I'll say, do you see it?
I see it.
On the one hand, I'd say, I hope these scores have gone down since May. On the other hand, I want to point out to everyone, we are always going to have this list of saboteurs. They are always going to be there. And yes, while Shirzad talks about them very negatively in terms of they lie to us and they stop us in our tracks and they hold us back, which is true. Another way to think about it is they're there for a very good purpose to protect us in some way,
Mhm.
to keep us safe or to keep us in community based on how we've grown up and who we've grown up with. So, what I keep trying to do by doing the PQ reps, which can be as simple as taking deep breaths intentionally, using our five senses to be in the present
Yep.
and grounded in the here and now versus looking at the past or reacting based on our past or being afraid of the future and what it may bring that we don't yet quite understand is really acknowledge, the hyperachiever's just shown up or the controller's just shown up. And if we do those PQ reps on a regular basis, we can minimize these scores. Fives aren't too bad. And if I could get everything to a five or less, then that would mean that I am automatically using more positive intelligence. I am really strengthening the muscle. So this is something that you can take the saboteur's assessment on a regular basis every couple months to see if your scores are starting to level out or coming down if they're at the top and high. But I don't want anyone to ever think they're going to get all to zero. That's not possible, and that's not the point. Otherwise, you're just living in a state of individual utopia, all by yourself, alone on the top of a mountaintop somewhere, and that's not practical for most of us. And
In
honestly,
that case, I would ask you if you're not exercising, you're a avoider.
fair, fair. I would also say I like this report a lot because you can click then on what does this hyperachiever really mean?
Mhm.
And I like that not only does it really articulate the characteristics, which is hard for people because many times we think these are all good things. We're competitive, we're image and status conscious. This is all the stuff that got us to where we are in the first place. And the thoughts, what thoughts are probably going on in our heads. What we don't really talk about or think about much, at least I never did, is how do these things, saboteurs, make us feel?
Mhm.
What lies are they telling us? What stories have we made up? What expectations have we set? And that's the big one for me, expectations, but more than anything, impact on others.
Mhm.
And so this in and of itself to go through to understand your each of the saboteurs is really important. And what I'm finding more recently is helpful after people get through that initial what this means for them. It's how am I showing up for others? How do I change the energy or the vibe or the dynamic when I'm entering the room? And it is different whether you are, as you said, in sage mode or self mode versus when you're walking in and that saboteur is raging.
Yeah.
And when yours is a raging, it causes everybody else's to start a raging.
Well, and I would complement that with when you're in sage mode and you go into a situation where people are not, you can better remain in that mode because you can more clearly see, oh, this is about them.
Mhm.
This is about them feeling scared or them feeling like there's scarcity or them feeling vulnerable. This isn't about what I've done and I don't own this. And so
Mhm.
you can use your energy to say, okay, I'm just going to let them work through their stuff as I go through my sage mode, right? My self mode, where I am not going to take responsibility for theirs.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's come up a couple of times for me very recently. One, I met with a colleague from long ago in the last few days, and she and I did not connect professionally very well.
Mhm.
Again, it was long ago. We were both younger, more naive, more, getting set to move up that corporate ladder. And we had a pretty long conversation about a lot of women in leadership and a lot of still lamenting why women in leadership or women as executives is so hard and so hard to get the role or find the followers and left thinking if more women focused on understanding this and actually thought more about how are they using knowledge about their own saboteurs to connect better across women colleagues and band together more effectively rather than focusing on who's going to get the leadership position and who's going to be promoted and making it a competitive game, we'd probably help the overall women collective much better and faster.
I'd say the same thing for pleaser or victim or any of them, right? The more we understand ourselves, the more we can and each other, right? Because you can see it in other people, the
Mhm.
more you can say, oh, this person is, I think, experiencing this, and I'm empathetic and supportive, and instead of blindly, you know,
Reacting.
reacting
Sure.
and exacerbating it,
Yeah.
um, coming back to, oh, okay, I see where they're at, and I'm okay, and I can help, right? They have a feeling of scarcity. How
Yes.
can how can I help make sure that they understand that this is a scarce environment?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so it just allows us to be much more thoughtful in how we engage.
Hmm.
And again, hyperachievement is a superpower, right? The
Can be.
ability to get stuff done, the ability to have standards, the ability to care where you're, self-promoting is hard, right? Anybody who has written a yearly document over this is how what I've done, right? Hyperachievers know how to do that.
Mhm.
And it can be a real superpower. It's just when it goes into that overuse and you're impacting people negatively, that's when you want to watch out for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Caution against going into overdrive.
Mhm.
Any strength overutilized becomes a weakness. Yes, all of that. I'd
Well, the
also say if you're a member of a team or a leader of a team and you notice bad behavior, rather than getting frustrated or rather than going, oh my gosh, what the hell is going on? And I thought we were through this. Take a moment and ask everyone, let's do it. Let's have a timeout. Everybody stand up. Everybody shake it off. Obviously, there's something going on here and nobody's doing this on purpose. So even just physically moving the body a little bit and acknowledging that something's a little off can provide a reset.
Yeah, especially in today's environment. There's another 15,000 cuts at a company that I used to work for, 15,000 people who are getting laid off. And that can cause some real scary feelings at
Yeah,
work and doesn't promote getting work done.
right.
Uh, doesn't promote getting the most straightforward path forward, right? It's a struggle. So really understanding where you're at and how to manage yourself and hopefully help others get through this is super important in this particular economy.
Yeah, agree. And almost toward that end, my third is victim. I mean, it's not too bad to talk about being a hyperachiever or controller because you can rationalize that. But victim, who wants to be a victim? Um, and do I think that I use emotion and temperament as a way to get attention? No, I don't think so. But do I? Obviously, I do at times. Do I have a martyr streak? Yes, especially in healthcare, because when I was frustrated with the business not doing what I knew patients needed, or even focusing on groups of patients that I knew needed care, like those that just need social determinants of healthcare, like good education, good housing, good food, um, transportation. Yeah, I could get on a martyr streak for sure. And so again, looking at it, admitting we all have these is big, but then looking at again, impact, you get vitality wasted because people don't listen to you. It just backfires because people push away and feel that strong martyr energy, recognizing you're not in a position to listen. Others get frustrated, they feel helpless, um, and and just walk away. So definitely not what I ever wanted to have happen. I was just trying to create passion and about the purpose and the mission. But when I look at it this way, I'm like, okay, now I understand how this can impact others. So just a really good assessment.
Yeah, agree with that.
The other assessment that is also free and helpful is a score, 0 to 100. And I won't go much into that. I do suggest people read the book, listen to the book, or at least go to the website to understand the 0 to 100. But if you do take the assessment, this will be the first page and it's your preliminary score. And I think this is important to understand too. They suggest you take 3 measurements over a period of time and take those measurements over days or weeks that are pretty typical, and that you can take them on a regular basis. So I like to use this as a diagnostic tool with myself and with my coachees to know what is their baseline of positive intelligence, average over 3, and then check in a couple months and then in another couple months to see if there is actually progress being made. So it's a really helpful tool in coaching to know, almost like a physician would do a diagnostic test and then track through labs or radiology tools, whether progress is being made to help the scientist in all of us with actual data.
I think it's important to mention that the positive intelligence quotient isn't a Pollyanna measurement. It's not how positive you are, or you're ignoring situations. It's
Mhm.
all about what is your ability to be in sage mode.
Yeah.
Where is your ability to manage your saboteurs, to not get triggered, to manage your energy appropriately. And as we increase our positive intelligence quotient, we are becoming more happy and joyful,
Yeah.
right? Because we're not constantly triggered or feeling attacked or feeling victimized or feeling like we have to please or feeling like we have to control. Um, and so it can be a real impact to your overall life as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Life and just components of life that we honestly never thought we could impact.
Yeah.
Having conversations we probably never thought we could. And if the language sounds strange, which it can, or arbitrary, I just like to bundle the saboteurs as it's your inner critic.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
even that, acknowledging we all have an inner critic of some sort, some much more powerful, ugly, obstinate, mean than others, but it's there. It's there.
We've talked about compassion too, and I feel like the positive intelligence and the PQ for in particular is a way to learn how to be compassionate with yourself.
That's great.
So I think there's really two strong components that this helps people with developing habits around that. I've heard it time and time again. I can't meditate. I can't meditate. And PQ reps are a way of becoming mindful. Um, and it's a mindfulness practice, but
True.
it's a mindfulness practice that takes 10 seconds
Hmm.
and that is super accessible because there's 5 different ways that you can do it. You can do it by hearing, feeling with your toes or your fingers, listening, seeing, breathing, right? You can experience, you get to try different things on over what is the right PQ rep for you. That then can say, okay, I'm feeling triggered in this moment, and I can use one of these techniques to get mindful.
Hmm.
And then conversely, you have the ability to be compassionate with yourself because you're learning about your saboteurs and you're understanding them and you're saying, oh, wow, right? This victim mentality that I have, um, it's because I'm passionate about this, but it's having an adverse effect, or this controlling piece of me. I control because I want to make sure everything's right and okay and everything's safe and I'm safe,
Hmm.
but this is the impact it's having on me,
Hmm.
and others. And so you can say, okay, well, I'm going to get compassionate with myself and say, okay, I understand.
Hmm.
I know now why those are happening.
Hmm.
And I can acknowledge that and move forward and make a choice to not overuse that saboteur of mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Just recognizing our saboteurs are immature because they started long, long ago, and
Yeah.
have compassion for that saboteur who's much like a smaller child or even a rambunctious teenager, which I have a lot of experience with lately. And you might get annoyed with them and you might get frustrated with them, and yet you still love them and try to understand that, they just don't have as much experience quite yet.
Yep. And you're able to, as yourself or your sage, say, you know what, you're not in charge right now.
Hmm.
You are immature and you are reacting to data that's no longer in the environment. So I'm going to lead from the self or from the sage. And I hear you, I acknowledge those feelings, and thank you for keeping me safe, for giving me this information. But here's how we're going to operate. Here's
Yep.
what we're going to do instead.
Taking charge.
Mhm. Much like a little, you know, uh, soccer league of parts that you're carrying around with you. You can
Yeah,
choose to operate and play the game the way that you want to.
exactly the way you want to. It takes time to figure it out though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the program is, remind me, is it 6 or 7 weeks long?
7, 8 weeks, I thought, but
I think it's 7 weeks. And then there's an opportunity to go into Grow, which allows for the person to continue on with some daily practices in the app. And again, it's nice to have a little coach in your pocket every day of the week. Um, and just that ability to carry the lessons with you every day to kind of reinforce.
yeah, definitely. So if anyone wants to learn more, they can go to the website, they can take the free assessments, they can do this work on their own. And then if they want coaching, like one-on-one coaching to help surround them, or even to practice with a group or a team, Kate and I are here to help.
Yeah. And would love to assist you on the journey.
Yes, agreed. All right. Thank you. Great conversation.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.